Well, to get started off, I would, wanted to add a trivia bit where did you guys know that RCMP had about 28,000 members and employees that are part of RCMP group? Well, that was news for me. And how Canadian the logo of RCMP, the badge, has a bison head, maple leaves, and a crown. And the exact reason why the buffalo head was chosen for the badge is still unknown. Well, I'll let you guys to ponder on that fact. Uh, well, our speaker, Jason Kunnamkudatha, who I'm sure needs no introduction for the attendees. Jason Kunnamkudatha has been a member of Royal Canadian Mounted Police Richmond Detachment since 2009. And during his 12 years of service, he's worked in capacities of general duty investigator, travel service investigator, service crimes investigator, and currently he is in airport policing at Vancouver International Airport. A few highlights of his career includes Courage and Bravery Award in June 2016, Certificate of Recognition for Interagency Partnership in June 2019. He's also a member of RCMP ceremonial troop and represented RCMP for the Olympia, Washington for Peace Officer Memorial. Also, the most recent mission being in August 2020, he traveled to Tirana, Albania to arrest and extradite a suspect back to Canada for to face criminal charges. Just want to, he's got a ton of awards around, but I did have to restrict it into a few. And what makes him feel relevant? He comes from a family filled with police officers who have served the forces for decades. And growing up as a child of a police officer was a love and hate relationship from the strict regime of what Jaison's hairstyle should be and what his options were when it comes to choosing a career. Jaison knew exactly what he needs to be or to do to what he needs to be and what he is today. He knew exactly what he needs to get into in part of his vision. After being rejected by Vancouver Police in his initial days in Canada, he went about volunteering in different organizations, the spread being from casinos to airports. He's done it all. He has volunteered as an auxiliary constable with Surrey RCMP for 3 years and with Richmond RCMP as crime prevention volunteer. Well, please join me in welcoming Jason Kunnamkudatha. Over to you, Jason.
Thank you very much, Dinesh, for your kind words. Good evening to you guys there. It's good afternoon still here in BC. And I understand you guys are enjoying a nice weather. So that's good. Don't fall asleep on me. Okay. So just like you mentioned, I've been a police officer for 12 years. I've been living in Canada for 22. Prior to joining RCMP, I worked approximately about 10, 12 different jobs. And before coming to Canada, I was working in Iran for a short time of period and in Dubai as well. And Dubai, I was doing sales and marketing, international marketing. So after I came to Canada, like I mentioned, I worked 12 different jobs. That includes working in different departmental stores where I started. From there, I started working at security jobs. Started at the Vancouver airport in the security. From there, I went to work with the casino as a security. From there to surveillance, then back to airport again. I worked as a supervisor with Canadian Air Transport Security at the airport. Went to work with BC Corrections, Ministry of Attorney Generals, as a corrections officer, supervising the prisoners, and also did volunteer work with Surrey RCMP as an auxiliary constable and crime prevention volunteer with Richmond RCMP. So just before getting hired with the RCMP, I was pretty much working 7 days a week for 2 jobs. So basically working full-time with corrections, part-time with Canadian Air Transport at Vancouver Airport. So 4 and 2. Then 1 day left, I was doing the volunteer work with the RCMP. So I had about 2 years of 7 days of work. Okay, 6 days of work and 1 day of commitment to my volunteer program. So I often get asked about the motivation behind why I choose this career. Dinesh already covered that a little bit. So my grandfather was in the police in India, back in Kerala, and he was in Kerala police during the British, when British used to be, so early 1900s, followed by my father, who was a retired inspector. He retired in 1988, 90, around that time period. And he always motivated me, as well as I always looked up to them as this is something runs in the family, and this is what the career I wanted to do when I grew up. For that, my father was preparing me when I was in India as well. Like Dinesh mentioned, I had very strict rules on what I'm allowed to do, what I'm not allowed to do, what time I had to wake up, making my bed, or given the choices whether I can go to church, or I can go do some martial arts, and also the way I supposed to cut my hair. And I was also involved with as you know, it's a cadet program in back home, NCC. I was also very active in that program. So basically, helping me throughout my teenage years, preparing to become a police officer. So I left India right after my graduation, so I didn't have an opportunity to pursue my the police officer career in India. Worked in Dubai, then came over to Canada. So immediately after coming to Canada, I started applying with Vancouver Police. So shortly after the interview, I was told I was lacking some experience in this culture, and I don't have enough understanding of the culture, which I think it was a very fair judgment at the time, or very fair assessment from their side, because coming from South Asia, coming into North America now, you wanted to be a police officer, there's lots of things you have to learn. Understanding the culture, the rights of the citizen, how to talk to the people, how to deal with people, and what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. So, seeing the police officers back home in India, and there's nowhere, the police officer's job is not at all close to what they do back home, because here, every action you take is being judged. Everything you do is you have to give an answer to somebody. You have to justify everything you do, especially when it comes to use of force. So then after that, once I got that response from Vancouver Police, then I never left my dream behind, but I continued working on my dream by strengthening my background, my experience working in different security field, working as a supervisor with Canadian Air Transport at the airport, with casinos in the security, and with the corrections. So, and my volunteer works. Overall, I build up a pretty good, strong resume. So when I apply next time, I can be a very good, strong candidate. Now, working for 12 years with the RCMP, I can tell you, I got lots of questions here from you guys, so I will try to cover that during my this conversation. Working with RCMP, I can tell you, I get asked these questions all the time. So what's the difference between RCMP and Vancouver Police, or OPP, or we call it over here Delta Police? So basically, the RCMP is Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which is under the Government of Canada. So your employer is Government of Canada. When it comes to OPP, Vancouver Police, your employer is the City of Vancouver, City of Ontario, wherever that provincial police agency is established. When it comes to RCMP, your opportunity is not only the city you're policing. So you could move around anywhere in Canada. You can, anywhere there's a police, RCMP is policing, you have an opportunity to move any province. That is just within Canada, but you also have an opportunity international. We have license officers working in almost every countries in Europe, in South Asia, in Middle East, and all over the world. We have license officers. We also have a peacekeeping missions around the world. We have it in Lebanon, we have it in Haiti, Iraq, Afghanistan, Ukraine. Many part of the world, we have police officers from RCMP is working with the United Nations, training the police officers in Afghanistan, Iraq, and that areas, also investigating different type of the crimes, sex-related crimes, and things like that. So a great thing about the RCMP is the opportunity for you to move around Canada, even outside Canada. It is a, if you are a type of person, especially when it comes to the language skills, say for an example, you speak in a European language, you speak French, or you have a different language other than English, that's going to open up a great opportunity for you. If you really want to pursue that route, you have an opportunity to work abroad, which is great. And during this 12-year service, I also had the opportunity. I also work with occasionally work with the VIP section. So VIP section look after all the VIPs coming into the country. So when the former President Obama was in Vancouver, I was in the security detail with the VIP section. When former President Trump's family came to Vancouver, I was with that security details. When the Prime Minister Trudeau come to Vancouver, I work with security details. So there is an opportunity for me personally, at least, it is an opportunity for you to see and interact with the leaders of different countries. For me personally, it is a big deal for me. When Prime Minister Modi came here, I think probably 7-8 years ago, maybe, I think, can't remember exactly. Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister at the time, and they came to Vancouver, and I was by their plane when they came down, when the Prime Minister Modi and Harper. So there is a opportunity which I personally enjoyed. So that is with the VIP section. So in my 12-year career, I worked in the general duty section. So when you graduate from the depot, you will be sent to a detachment where you will be most likely in a uniform duty, which is called general duty. That's where you get the calls, there's an accident, stabbing, shooting, whatever the case is. So you are the person on the road all the time. And they get dispatch you, depending on where you are, they'll dispatch you to that particular area to attend the call. So you're in the uniform duty, you are the first responder, you're always the first one on the scene. So that was a general duty policing. I did that 3 years. After that, I went to work with the traffic section. So traffic section, I also investigate several fatal collisions where serious accident and death involved. After traffic section, I went on to work with the serious crime section, which is mostly investigate major crimes, shooting, stabbing, kidnapping, missing child, those type of things. After general investigation section, now I'm back again at the Vancouver airport. I'm back in the uniform duties, trying to get some experience to become a supervisor in the very coming future. So I'm getting some of acting supervisor time at Vancouver airport. That's a little bit of my last 12 years of service. When we talk about RCMP, it is a paramilitary organization. As I mentioned before, I was the part of the NCC, National Cadet Corps in India when I was in the university. So I got a little bit of taste of how that looks like when you are working with the Army or when you are in such a disciplined atmosphere. So I remember when I was with cadet, you need to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you had to make your bed, you had to polish your shoes, you had to eat your breakfast within certain time, and you had to be on the ground, whether to do your exercise or for your parade, or then you have the class during the day. So your day is been organized the way keep you busy, continue going, pushing to the limit. So I did that about 3 years when I was in the university. So when I came here and when I went for training for the RCMP training 6 months in Regina, It was exactly like that, exactly like I was in the cadet, except we have a lot more. We have ground fighting and we have shooting and we have driving. There's a lot more training involved, a lot more physical challenges. But I was mentally prepared and I had some experience or what to expect when I went to depot. Um, Several people ask what is the most difficult part when you were in the depot. So the 6 months time you're living with, when I went through the training 12 years ago, you're living with 30 people. So but this, the females, they are in a different area, but if you are male, so technically not 30 people, but you are troop or so the troop is 30, 31, 32 people in that troop. In that 32, then females are separate, male is separate. And so whatever the number of males, 15 or 20, you guys will be all staying in one barrack or one room, pretty much a big hall. Well, this could be different right now, but at the time, so everybody's sleeping next to each other. And this is when you're going through the training period, it is extremely stressful time, because your day is really, the 24 hours is not enough for you, because like just mentioned, you'll be starting, you have 5:30, you have your schedule, 5:30 to 6 is breakfast, 6 o'clock you had to be in the ground ready for your march. Yeah, that finish at 7 or 7:30. Then you have 15 minutes to be ready and go back to your classroom at 8 o'clock. You finish your classroom at 9 o'clock, and 9:10 you had to be in the gym. So all this process, you need to keep changing the clothes. And the initial stages, there isn't enough time allowed for you to get this thing done. So that means is you finish 9 o'clock your classroom, 9:10 you have to be in the gym. After changing your uniform, everybody together, 9:15 you have to be in the gym. So what happens is some people are late, or some people are delayed to get in there, so whole troop will be late, because you can't go by yourself, because you are playing you are a team player here. So you're not just looking after yourself only, you're looking after everybody else. So the policing is a lot to do with teamwork, because you are relying on, you're depending on your teammate to watch your back. So you are at the depot, they actually train you to be a team player. So, which basically means this class is finished, the teacher will tell you 10 minutes you got to be in the gym. So there's somebody who's going to pack their notes slowly. They're going to grab their water bottle. They're going to delay everyone else. So what happens is someone else will step in. They say, hey, let me grab your water bottle. Okay, let me help you with that, because you don't want to be late. Everybody has to get there together. And if you are late, then you're going to be doing a push-up, 10 push-up, 20 push-up, or go for a run or something like that. They make you do something. So
sounds extremely intense, right?
So it is a paramilitary organization. So the training is very, very, very similar to that. I know your city police department, especially say Vancouver or Delta here in BC, you go to a training center for your training, you come back home at the end of the day, right? So you're not staying with anybody. You're not, you get to go home, which is much more relaxing, I would say. But so then, example, I was saying, you finish your gym. After the gym, you need to take shower. Okay, then you need to get back onto the uniform, sometimes with uniform, or sometimes if you see in our red surge, the one in the red uniform, you need to get back into that uniform red surge within 15 minutes, then you need to go for a march or something like that. So it is timed that way in the early stages of your schedule. You will not make it there on time. That is a way of teaching you how to work together as a team, how to support each other. If you see somebody in your team is weak, you're going to help them out to make this on time, right? So throughout that 6 months, you're going through those type of training, and it will push you to the limit. After your class is done at 4 o'clock, you still have a group, the work to do, maybe a study part or some questions to be answered. You have to work in group. Once that is done, then you need to do your run. So you have to do certain kilometers, certain miles per week. I can't remember exactly what it is, probably 10 or 15 kilometer a week or something like that. So you had to do your run. You also have to do certain workout within the week. You had to do 4 or 5 gym workout within the week. That includes 3 weight training or 2 the cardio trainings. Also, you also have to do your driving. It's almost every day you have to go driving training, which you take a car with your partner, you go out in the city, you do the parking, you do the driving, you're looking for things, getting the experience. Sometimes you also have to do the shooting. So that is also after. I'm talking about the after your class, everything done 4 o'clock. So some people are not very good in shooting, so they have to do additional training. They have to go for called LA, learning assistance. So by the time you're all done, it's going to be 9:30. You start 5 in the morning. Your day is done by 9:30, right? So it is pushed to the limit that if you are weak, you're going to give up and go home, right? So when you go into this training, it is you always have to think that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because you going to have days you're going to think this is not for me. I'm going to go. Right, I'm just going to give up. I can't do this. Right, there's going to be days like that, but that is when your troop mates come into play. Because if you are thinking like that, there's someone else thinking exactly the same way. They go into the same stress you're going through. Some people, I mean, in my case, my wife was a couple of months pregnant, 3 months pregnant when I went to depot. So, and I'm concerned about my wife, and she's pregnant, and I'm not around. Those type of stress for me, right? And I mean, I did 3 trips back to BC to visit her during that period. So, other people separating from their children, from their parents, financial difficulty. So there is going to be extremely stressful and difficult time when you're going through the depot. So talking with the other troop mates, because most of them going through exactly the same situation, having that conversation with them, which will be very helpful. And be positive about it, because it is, you need to have an idea. Just like I mentioned, all the things you're going to have a marching, you're going to have physical fitness, you're going to have ground fighting, a little bit of swimming, you're going to have shooting, you're going to have the running, you're going to have a police tactical driving. So it's not just driving around the city. You will be in a certain driving range, and you need to meet certain minutes and seconds, certain way you have to park, and how fast you can go and without touching the cone. If you look at it on the YouTube, you might see some examples. So your day gets stretched really, really hard, and it's supporting each other and talking with the other colleagues, your other troop mates, and working together will get you through the stress. And be mentally prepared and going that 100% you're going to get through this no matter what. So I'll tell you an example. Recently, somebody graduated from the depot. When I talked to them, they said they had 31 people in the troop, and by the time they graduated, they only got 18 left. Okay, so we're talking approximately 50%, 55% of, in my troop, out of 32, 28 graduated, so which wasn't too bad, about 90% graduated, but there has been cases about 50% graduation rate. So if 10 people apply, about 4 maybe get selected. From that 4, maybe about 3 or 2 graduate. So because some people cannot handle the pressure. Right. So to prepare you for this, to what's coming your way, the one thing is the physical fitness, because the physical fitness has a big role in the policing, as well as when you are going through the training. Like I said, when you're doing 15, 20 kilometers a week or something, some people are going to have knee issues, shin splint, and all lots of other, fitness issues. And also you have to do the pair, you have to meet certain standards, you have the rope climbing, weight training, and they will really put you to work. So preparing yourself, physical fitness, paying really attention to that includes the strength training and cardio training and running. Prepare yourself physically fit. When you're physically fit, you're confident enough. If you have any background in some kind of martial arts and things like that, maybe polish that up. That'll come into handy. And mentally prepared to get through this difficult challenge. So when we talk about some of the questions here, um, I mentioned a little bit about how the organization, the RCMP, it is all the decisions are coming from the Ottawa mostly. So comparing to OPP or your city police, the difference is in the city police, the decision is made by the police board within that city. So the mayor of the city, police board, and people on the police board, they will be able to make that decision, which is much quicker and easier within a few weeks or months. When it comes to RCMP, the decisions are made by the commissioner and higher level up. So it will take months and years and it get dragged forever, right? So the organizational structure like that, you can easily make any changes to anything. You know, we still have some of the uniform changes coming our way, which has been testing for last 1 year. There's nothing has been changed. So it take quite a bit of time getting some kind of response or some kind of actions with the RCMP because of how the structure of the RCMP is, because the commissioner to assistant commissioner, deputy commissioner is all come down that way. And RCMP is the federal organization, Government of Canada employee, which means, like I said, you have ability to work anywhere in Canada, represent Canada in official functions outside Canada, right? Which is I was talking about the Blood Surge duty or ceremonial troop. Ceremonial troop is a group of members from the division who's trained to attend the special ceremonies, parades, march, funerals, weddings, those type of things. So you get a special training and the march and everything else they teach you, and you have an opportunity to attend different functions around Canada, outside Canada, in US, and sometimes in European countries and in Asia as well. So, which is a great opportunity within the RCMP. Now, when you talk about the selection process, I think I will keep that for last because there's a lot to cover in the selection process. And there is the age limit is 18 years old. You can join, but you cannot graduate until you are 19 years old. So the lower level, but the highest level, how old you can be, there is no really any age restriction. As far as I know, as long as you can give RCMP about 5 years of service, I think RCMP is happy to take people. So when I was going through the training, the oldest guy in my troop was 43 years old, and he was already a grandfather, right? So now he's a great member. So so age, as far as I know, as long as you are able to do the job and you're physically fit, then age is not an issue. And the scope with the RCMP as to the growth perspective, RCMP, as far as I know, got just over 150 different sections. So background is you are a mechanic, you are an accountant, you are an IT guy, you are an electrician, you are an engineer. It doesn't really matter. There is a job for you within the RCMP, but you have to start as a police officer first. Then you move on to different sections. For an example, your experience in marketing, we have a market enforcement team. If you are your background is in accounting, we have an economic crime unit. If you have mechanical background, we have officers work with the collision reconstruction, they dealing with the accidents and those type of things. If your background is in IT, we have IT guys working on high profile cases and the cyber crime. So doesn't matter what your background is, there is always a specialized unit. If you are a great swimmer, we have a unit that look after that. If you are really physically fit and you're very adventurous, you want to take a lot more adventure stuff, we have an emergency response team or called TAC team. So there is lots of opportunities within the RCMP for the growth. Also, one of the biggest difference between the RCMP and the agency is, if you think about, I don't know how big is OPP, say they have 1,000 officers, for an example, and you have probably 10 staff sergeants or surgeons. But within the RCMP, you can apply for a job, promotional opportunities anywhere in Canada. I'm working in Richmond, but I could apply for a job in Ontario or in New Brunswick or Newfoundland, wherever it is. There's the opportunity within the RCMP. is big because RCMP usually hire anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 people a year. Within the city police, they probably hire maybe 50 to 100 police officers. So you have a lot more opportunity for growth and a lot more opportunity to move around. The other question is about the written test, physical test, interview process. So written test, when I was applied to become an officer, I was using a website called policeprep.com. So that is www.policeprep.com. So that website has not only the RCMP they also have the test materials for the CVSA, federal corrections, many different agencies. So I use that for the practice purpose. Also, you can look at the RCMP website. They have very few the practice questions, but this website, which was very helpful for me, you can keep practicing, and it will be almost in the same type of sample as the RCMP, the exam. Physical fitness, we already covered. Interview process. So when they go for the interview, they cover the core values of the RCMP. So if you look at the RCMP website, they will say what the core values of the RCMP. So they cover those things during the interview. Your ability to work as a team member, ability to work independently, the situation you resolve the conflict, those type of things. So if you look at the RCMP core values and try to relate that situation to your personal experience, work experience, and use that as an example when it comes to the interview. Then I will go through the selection process itself separately. What are the steps involved? I'm just answering some of the questions what I received. How is the typical day look like at work? So it is all depending on what detachment you work, how big your detachment is, and what section you are in. This all varies between each detachment and the section. So for example, the general duty, you come in, you're starting your work at 6 o'clock, it's a 12-hour shift. You're starting at 6 o'clock, you come in, there's usually going to be a briefing. So I'm talking about detachment where I work. We have about 350 police officers. So our briefing is going to be like a briefing means a meeting. We're going to have maybe 30, 40 members in that briefing. They talk about that day, the things that's going to possibly happen. There's a protest happening, or somebody wanted, or they talk about what happened the night before, something you should know before you go out. So the briefing is done, you grab your car, you get your guns, you get your duty bag, you sign into your computer. So the RCMP is one member, one car. As some of the city police, they have 2 police officers in the car, so they work in partners. RCMP is a one-member car. So you will log into your computer at the central dispatch system, and you have, if you're a big detachment, you will have a district or a zone assigned to you. So you will be patrolling in that zone. When the call comes in that particular zone, the dispatcher will look at the GPS map and see where you are. If you're attached to another call, if you're free, if you're close to that call, they will dispatch you to that call. Depending on the seriousness of the situation, whether there's a stabbing, shooting, or some kind of violence involved, the dispatcher may ask 2 or 3 other backup members to go with you. This is all case by case. It's also depending on the detachment size. But I can tell you some northern posting, some Nunavut and some other areas of Canada, the RCMP policing, there is no backup members there. So you're pretty much maybe traveling for an hour, 45 minutes, you're trying to attend to a call of domestic violence or stabbing or shooting or some First Nation communities, RCMP police. So some areas of Canada, you can get that luxury, like where I work in Richmond. If you have a small incident, we have 5, 6 police officers attending. We have a police dog unit come in. We have sometimes we have the emergency response team. We have police helicopter. We have lots of backup unit to help us. But if you are in some of the northern communities, you are pretty much by yourself. So that is when the de-escalation come into play. Your confidence, your physical fitness, your mind setting, it is all come into play when you are going to attend a call by yourself, when there is a stabbing or shooting, or your backup unit is one hour away or something like that. So that is one. That is so you have your for an example, you got a call, you got dispatch, you go there. Depending on the seriousness of the situation, you have a backup unit. Say, for example, it is a car accident, big car accident. So you have 3-4 officers show up, one officer taking statement, the other one dealing with the vehicle and the passenger, a third one talking to the witnesses, the other one taking the pictures, one controlling the traffic section. That's what I was talking about as a teamwork, because you guys all in this together, everybody working together for the safety of the public. And certain situation, it is going to be you. Everyone else is tied up. Now you have several roles to play. You end up arresting somebody, you're going to bring them back to your detachment, you're going to book them into the cell, you're going to take the picture, you're going to photograph, then you're going to prepare a report to the Crown Council while you hold this guy in your custody. So those days are very stressful days, especially when you talk about your shift finish 6 in the morning, 5 o'clock, you have somebody in custody. You could be there for until 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. You had to complete that, deal with that guy, finish up all the report to the Crown Council before you can go home. So it is a type of job which is, not Monday to Friday, 8 to 4 kind of job. It is a job, your day is going to be 12, 13, 14, 15 hour long. Or if you are in some of the sections, for an example, you are in a youth section. Youth section is work with the schools. So 8 to 4, you're done. Most of the time, they get to go home 4 o'clock, right? So depending on the section you are, and usually in general duty, chances are you're going to be delayed because the calls keep coming in. You are leaving at your shift finish at 6 o'clock, 5:30 call come in. You can't say I'm off in half an hour. They can wait, right? You're going to go for that call. Someone else is going to come and take over from you, but you might have still paperwork to do. So your days can be very, very long. I'm sure everybody has questions about the wages. That is a big deal for everybody. But I can tell you the RCMP has been way behind of many other police organizations. When the RCMP, the act came into effect, the RCMP is supposed to be in the top 3 in the wages in Canada. So now we are somewhere around 150 or somewhere around there. That is because we didn't have a union for RCMP. So a couple of years ago, RCMP has been unionized. We have our very first collective agreement has been negotiated currently, and within next 6 months' time, that's what we've been told. Our wages will be in parity with the other police organizations. So we hope somewhere the first class constable wage will be somewhere between 103 to 110, somewhere around there. Then with your overtime and everything, usually go up to about 150, somewhere around there. So we're looking forward for our very first collective agreement, but at this point, the first class constable, the top wage is 88,000. And if you're a senior constable over a 7-year service and you have passed the exam for a supervisor, then you'll get additional 5,000. So you're looking at about 93,000. And the overtime opportunities is excellent. It's almost like unlimited opportunities for overtime. So there is, I'm sure we all wanted to serve and protect, but we all want to support our families as well. So some part of Canada, that money goes a long way. If you are in a very small community, $100,000 will be a good. If you are in Toronto or in BC, places like that, that money won't really go that far because of the cost of living and things like that. So within next 6 months, we're hoping a very good collective agreement bring us in line with all the other police agencies. And some other questions I wanted to cover is, one of the question here is, how long it take for one to move from desk job for joining the entry level. So I'm not sure what do you mean by the desk job, but if you meant, so I went from general duty, which is put uniform duty to traffic section, which is also you're on the road all the time. From there, I went to investigating the serious crime or general investigation section, which is, you can call it as a desk duty because you're not the first responder. You are in the office, you're monitoring the calls, but you will only respond to the calls if it a serious incident come in. So there's a stabbing or shooting happen, kidnapping happen, then you're going to go out with a team of members, then you're going to take over that investigation. So you are an investigating team. In the city police, you call it as a detectives. So plainclothes unit is detectives in RCMP, which is investigating a serious crimes and solving the problems. As a general duty or the first responder, you're going to be there on the scene as a first responder. You're blocking out the location, you're getting the witnesses, collecting evidence, then handing over to the investigative team, the serious crime section or major crime section. So if that's what you meant by the desk job, which is all depending on the detachment where you end up and also the size of the detachment. So for some of the detachment, they only have 5 or 6 members working. So there is no desk job really. There is no different sections. Where I work in Richmond, we have just over 20 different sections. We have a youth section, gang section, fraud section, traffic section, general investigation, major crimes, youth and community engagement team, arson investigative team. So many different sections. So depending on how big your detachment is, you could be in that section within 2 or 3 years, depending on how well you perform during your general duty days and your career goals and if you're working towards it, right? So, but there's no guarantee to it. But if you have certain skills which can be used, the RCMP, say for an example, language skills, right? You speak Farsi or you speak some other language which is helpful, you could move into a different section pretty quickly. So when I registered my profile, I put it down as I speak Tamil, right? I don't have fluency in Tamil, but when I was living in Dubai, I used to live with a roommate who was Tamil, so I got good exposure to Tamil, so I have pretty good understanding of the Tamil. I can read or write. So when, I don't know if some of you guys maybe knew, but a long time ago, there was a ship came from Sri Lanka with a refugee ship came. So the RCMP in Ottawa checked all the members' profile and they looked at it and see who speak Tamil. Then I got a call from a staff sergeant in Ottawa saying, hey, we're looking for a member temporarily come into our section and work with this refugees who came into the language skill people to interview, those type of things. But I wasn't that good enough to communicate for the court purpose and translation. So I didn't take that opportunity. I wasn't able to. So what I'm trying to say is if you have certain skills that can be transferred immediately for a job, you could be taken out of your unit in no time, right? So we have a unit called Special O and Special I. So one unit, they are mostly to do the covert operation. They will install the cameras, listening devices in the vehicles and in the apartments and those type of things, doing all surveillance type of thing. So if your background, for example, you are electrical engineer or electronics, well, you could be taken out of that team in no time because your skills is needed somewhere else. So there is no really a set time period. You have to be in certain, time period in uniform before you can go and work in different areas. That's all depending on your skill level, also your motivation, how quickly you wanted to move. So for an example, you're working in general duty, your goal is to go to a fraud section. So your goal should be taking all the calls, which is fraud calls come in. You should be the first one to jump on it. I said, I'll take that call because then you getting that exposure to those type of calls. And when there's an opening in fraud section, you are the first one to get that job because you already showed the initiative and you already have an experience. Now you're going to go in there, right? So if you wanted to be in a serious crime section and if you have some big file, serious crime is investigating, you're going to step in and say, hey, I'm going to help you guys, whether you want me to write a warrant, you want me to take a statement, you guys want any help, I'm going to help you with that. So you already getting into that section, start working with them, and you have an exposure to what they do, you'll be the first one get selected when the opening comes in. So it is depending on how motivated you are and what is your career goal is. You start steering towards that field type of calls and start building your resume. So when I finished my general duty, I wanted to go into traffic section. So what I did is I enforce the traffic laws. I write lots of tickets. I investigate the accidents, fatal collisions. When the opening come in the traffic section, I was the first one to get the job. So within, when you're working in the general duty, that period, you will have an opportunity to steer your career to the direction you want it to go, depending on how motivated you are. So I hope I answered that question about the, if that's what you mean. So there is a question about how do we apply for the admin roles within the RCMP. So if you're talking about the admin roles, means somebody who's working in the office, they doing the typing, faxing, those type of things. If that's what you meant, it's city like Richmond, all the administrative job in the office is the city of Richmond is hiring them, and they place them in the RCMP. So they are not directly the RCMP employees, they are employees of the city, and they will be doing the admin jobs, right? Transcription, typing, faxing, administrative stuff. But we also have civilian employees. They work in the forensic field, labs, and things like that. So they are all the Government of Canada employees, just like the RCMP members. So those jobs will be jobs.gc.ca, Government of Jobs website, because the recruiting process is standard for that. You create your profile, write your test, interview, those type of thing, right? So those jobs will be Government of Canada website. But if you're working in a big city where the RCMP is the policing agency, you should check with that city's website where they'll be opening for the RCMP jobs, like work in the RCMP detachment, but hired by the city. Okay, so there isn't many civilian jobs within the RCMP itself, but forensic and those type of field, right? Yeah. One of the other question is what's the toughest when it comes to cracking the RCMP selection process? We're going to get into the selection process in a second. Complete set of selection process, and we'll talk about that in a second. Tell us the stress levels within the RCMP. So the stress is extremely high with this job, because if you are a type of person who are sensitive to people's comments, so I'll tell you, for an example, I used to work as a corrections officer in the jail, and I get teased when I was working in the jail because of my accent. I mean, I got a thick Indian accent, and they teased me when I was working in the jail, the inmates, or the color of your skin or your background, religious belief, whatever they can pick on. You get teased. You get teased that whether you are in general public or when you're working with, all the jobs has its own issues, but as a police officer, they always see you. Right, so you get made fun of, you get recorded. Everything you do, scratching your nose will be recorded, and they will just show only that part of it. So there's lots of stress to it. Also, dealing with people is extremely difficult for lots of people. When it comes to the policing job, it's a lot to do with conflict resolution or de-escalation. So what I meant by that is you going into a situation where the people you're dealing with, they are very agitated, they are very angry, they are ready to fight you. You don't want to, as a police officer, you can take certain steps to protect yourself, but your first step will be trying to de-escalate that situation, trying to bring that down to a peaceful resolution without using any use of force. Because when you use the use of force, they could get injured, you could get injured, your partners get injured, general public get injured. So you wanted to bring that to a peaceful resolution by de-escalating that situation. So lots of people has issues with that, talking to the people, because sometimes the response you get just almost like a slap on your face, the type of, the language they used and everything. So just understanding that is nothing personal. It is, they just don't hate you as a person. They hate you, the uniform you represent, what you do. So you need to deal with those of difficult people. You have to deal with people who's maybe for an accident scene, the mother lost a child or lost a husband, or there's a missing child situation, right? So you're also going to have, like you mentioned, your shift is going to finish at 6 o'clock in the morning, and 5:30 you have somebody in custody. Now you need to work on that file next 3, 4, 5 hours. You have to try to get this thing done. And other type of stress is related to your family, because when you coming home after 12, 13-hour, 14-hour shift, your family may not understand what you just went through. You probably at an accident scene, you were at maybe a shooting scene, or you probably seen a dead body, or somebody committed suicide, or a file you're investigating missing person, now it's end up dead. You coming home with lots of stress from your job. So if your family, your partner is not very understanding person, you're going to carry on that stress. That's how the lots of police officers, military members, they all end up with the PTSD, because because we all think that we are very strong. We are police officers, we are Superman, we have very strong heart, we are strong, nothing will affect us, which is not true. For an example, I can say that a member of my team last month committed suicide in Richmond. She's a less than 2-year member. She committed suicide. So that affected all of us. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't talk. I worked with that person a couple of days before. So, and it is extremely stressful for the detachment, the people work with, the community, everybody. So sometimes you take this job home. In the sense, you will be still concerned or worried about what you just did. For an example, say you are involved in a domestic violence investigation, you arrested the husband, you brought him, then you release him. Now, you're concerned that I hope he will not go back and do something to the lady or to the guy. So you're concerned, or you have a missing person investigation, a child or something. You come home, but you're still worried. Okay, are they going to find that child, or are they going to find this missing person? You still have that stress related to the job, the investigation you are involved in. So this job got lots of stress, and you also have to testify in the court, and every evidence you provide, everything you write is all public record. Anybody can read, anybody can access to those type of information. You will be questioned on the stand, your actions or inactions, what you did and what you failed to do. So this is a job. What you do will be criticized, and what you fail to do will be criticized. So this is that type of job. Like for example, at a scene, there's certain things you're supposed to be doing. So if you fail to do that, you will be criticized. So if you do the job, if you didn't do the job, both ways you'll get criticized. So there's lots of stress. You will be on the media, those type of things, right? Sometimes if you're involved in a high profile investigation, for an unfortunate situation, you are involved in a shooting or something like that, this is going to take a toll on your family. Your family will be exposed, your Facebook profile, everything you did, pictures, your vacation, everything will be on the news, everything will be on the, say, for an example, if you're an ordinary person get arrested for drinking and driving, nobody will know about it. As a police officer, you get arrested, that will make it to the news. So your on duty, off duty, your overall behavior, overall who you are, that has to be always under the scrutiny. Anything you do outside your job, you still can be under investigation under the RCMP policies and things like that, or your agency's policy. So what I meant by that is the people you hanging out and what they involved in, those type of thing. You're slowly going to bring your friend circle very, very small, because you stop trusting the other people because of the type of the job. You're going to bring in your friend circle very, very small, because you don't want it to be involved in a situation with somebody. You're going into a club, or you're going into somewhere with the people you don't even know. You don't want it to be in that situation if you don't know what they do. So what I'm trying to say is, your behavior has to be at the highest, you will be treated highest level on the job and off the job. So you have a big responsibility on your shoulders, and your community will be looking up to you as a role model. So I can tell you my example. 13 years ago, when I wanted to apply for this job, I didn't have anybody to talk I didn't have someone to give me a feedback, somebody talk me through the process, hold my hand and say, hey, Jaison, this is what you're supposed to do. This is how you can get through each step of the process. I didn't have anybody. So I'm glad I'm able to talk to you guys, and I'm here if you guys need help, any part of the selection process where you need help. I'm here to help you guys with it, to give you all the advice I can. So having somebody like that, so you are one of that person, you're a police officer, you are a role model in the community. People, I get an average about 3 to 4 calls every week from somebody from my community. It's a different situation, whether they got a traffic ticket, they were arrested for impaired driving, domestic violence, landlords and tenants. I'm always engaged with my community in BC because there's always somebody who need help, and there's nowhere else can they turn into. They look up to you because you are from that community and they wanted to connect with you, and they know they can trust you. So what I'm trying to say is your off-duty behavior, how you present yourself after off-duty, is also important. Okay, that's about the stress level. Now we can talk about the little bit about the RCP, the recruiting process itself, the steps involved. I'm just going to switch it to a different screen here. Okay, so like I mentioned, if you are a Canadian citizen, you're good to go. The city police department, they have a different set of rules. So when I came into Canada, I applied with the VPD right away. So there was no really any restriction or any time period you had to wait, or citizenship, none of that matters. But when it comes to CMP, there are certain rules because you are also investigating the files involving the national security, right? Terrorism threat, those type of things. So your investigative avenue is go beyond you're just the detachment or city you're working with the RCMP. You are a federal police officer. So when I said the federal police officer, the police officers is also the RCMP officers in particular. They are also immigration officers, customs officers, fisheries officers, aeronautic officers, also quarantine officers. So you have a many different hats you can wear. You can enforce all that. They're giving you a big job, big authority for customs act or immigration. Occasionally I do because I work at the airport. You can enforce the Fisheries Act, illegal fishing, things like that. If anything to the aeronautics and something happening in the plane or in the air, you're an aeronautic officer as well. So you have so many different roles as an RCMP officer, also an authority. So your clearance level is completely different. Minimum of secret to top secret clearance. So the restrictions became the RCMP office is different with the city police departments. For the RCMP, you had to be Canadian citizen or at least 3 years, 1,095 days out of 5 years in Canada. So if you lived in 5 years in Canada, but 3 years you were living abroad, that won't be enough. So out of 5 years, you had to be living here 1,095 days. That's a requirement. At least 18 years of age, but you cannot graduate, became a police officer at 18 years, but you had to be 19 by the time you graduate. Then that is the minimum requirement. Be proficient in English or French. Also possess the unrestricted driver's license. So in BC, we have a class 7, new driver, class 5. So unrestricted means you shouldn't have any restriction on your driver's license. You need a supervisor, you need a learner sign, you have a new driver's sign, none of those. You have to be clean, unrestricted driver's license. That's what you need. So if you ask me if you can use the international driver's license, no, you need to get the license in the province where you're living.
So Jaison, can I say that you need to have ensured a clean slate in terms of your driver's license?
It is a good question, which technically has to be directed towards a recruiter. But if you have a bad driving history, you have 3, 4, 5 tickets, that does not mean you will not get hired. that means you will not get hired at that point. So they might ask you, maybe you wanted to wait another year and clean up your driving history. And because you just got a ticket 2 months ago, a month before, that is your driving pattern. You're a bad driver. So we don't want to take you, and because you will be driving a police car in 100, 150 kilometers an hour. So you're already a bad driver. You don't want to cause any more damage. So they might ask you, you might want to wait a little bit, and that until that things are cleared. But you got a 1 ticket or something, or 2 ticket within the last 2-3 years. That might be okay, but it is going to be case by case. So a recruiter will be the best person to answer that.
Yeah.
In generally, good driving history without any prohibition, suspension, impaired driving history, or anything like that, right?
It's still a hurdle which you can cross. It's not like
So there is certain, the reality is all of us has done something in the past, right? None of us are innocent, none of us are saints. We have done something, right? For an example, I can say I have run the red light sometime. You come up 3 o'clock in the morning, you come to the intersection, nobody there, okay. Just go through it. I have done it. Everybody has done something, right? And there was so when you're preparing the questionnaire, you have to, I'll go through the steps, but when you fill out this questionnaire, they will ask you from the time you remember, like 5-6 years old until the yesterday, everything that happened in your life. That includes if you driven the vehicle under the influence of alcohol, used drugs, watched the pornography, have you copied some from other people, in the exams, assaulted somebody, involved in the terrorist activities and plagiarism, everything you can remember, everything they will cover in that questionnaire. So one of the questions I recall, I was like, have you driven after had alcohol? I said, yeah. My answer was yes, I have. But my explanation for that was we went for a Christmas party. There was 4 other people extremely drunk, and I was the only one with the lease. So I took everybody home, wanted to make them safe. That doesn't make it justified. But I'm saying I have done mistakes in the past, and I understand that is wrong, and I did not repeat it. So what the point I'm trying to make is all of us has done something in the past. They are not going to reject your application for that reason, depending on what exactly we're talking about. I'm not talking about somebody who did the drug dealing in the past. Now I'm a good guy. That may be a no, right? Or you got convicted of a sexual assault or some kind of serious offense like that. There is no coming back from it. I'm talking about minor traffic offenses, or, you are involved in a minor fight, or those type of things, right? Some of the things they will overlook as try to understand you as a human being. Everybody make mistake, but what they're really trying to see is, have you learned anything from that? Have you changed your lifestyle, right? There's a good friend of mine. We applied all together, and excellent candidate, but his application got rejected for one reason. Reason is, so I asked him, and it was very hard for him to talk to me about this, but what he mentioned was when he was student, he used to do pizza delivery, okay? But everything you got, the commission, tips, everything, you never declared it. You know what I mean? Nobody will think about that right now. I'm sure there's some students maybe listening. Nobody will think about that right now because you're thinking, oh, what's the big deal, right? So what they're looking at your integrity, right? Then another situation, which was my personal situation, is you cross the border. We are 20 minutes from the U.S. border. You go to a big shopping. When you're coming back, you just say a little bit less the numbers of shopping, right? You only like to bring 50, but now you bring in 500, and you make that number to 300. So declaring, customs declaration, and I got questioned on that, and I told them what happened, and I got deferred for a few months. He said, well, that is very recent. You just did that 9 months ago. So we're going to wait until at least 1 year before we look at your application. Like I said, I'm not saying I'm 100%, saint or anything, because I have done some things in my past, and most of us has done it. But what they're trying to see is, this is your part of your lifestyle. Are you doing that every week, right? Have you learned anything from that mistake, what you did? And are you corrected that mistake? So this guy I was talking about, a friend of mine, the actual reason behind he got rejected because I was talking to him. Then he said when he was in, I think he went to Thailand or somewhere, and during his vacation he uh, used some kind of extra services from the ladies. You know what I mean? So then he paid for that services. Okay, so the RCMP will look at it if the offense committed in Canada, if that same offense is became a criminal offense. That's what they look at it, right? In certain countries, for an example, say for an example in India or something like that, hitting a children or smacking your wife in the community may be accepted. You know, people are thinking, oh, that's your kid. You have every right to do whatever you want. Discipline your children, your wife is okay in India, right? But not here. You can do that here. But they will look at it if that offense you committed over there, it became an offense if it is committed here, right? So you know what I'm trying to get to. Absolutely. So his application got rejected, but there was no recall for that. That is done and over with, because that is some of the offense that they will say, no, this guy can't be part of this organization because you are representing the government of Canada and you have given a uniform, right? So, having those kind of moral standards, right? You need to set that moral standards very high in this case. So when it comes to education, grade 12, Canadian grade 12, or if your education is from back home, you have a bachelor's degree or something else, you need to have that assessed and have a equivalency to Canadian grade 12. So I did bachelor's back home. So here I got the undergraduate degree. If you have a master's, that would be bachelor's here, so something like that. So you have to have that the assess and have a equivalency. That certificate has to be produced. The other one is health and psychological standards. We already talked about the fitness level. You know, as a police officer, you are always in a role of you always end up became arresting somebody, running, jumping a small ditch or climbing over a fence, or sometimes you're running with a police dog, police dog unit on scene, they're following a suspect, you will run with that dog. So the fitness level and the belt you're wearing is 25 to 30 pounds. So you have to be physically fit and ready to do that job when you're coming. So the fitness is a great importance. So if you are not there yet, maybe a good time to get started keeping your future goal is 1 year from now. Then the psychological standards, when I talk about that is you making an assessment yourself. Are you the type of person who will be able to see the blood? You'll be able to deal with the dead bodies. Maybe somebody, committed suicide, jumped in the river, and you end up finding a body 3 months after. Can you deal with that situation? Can you attend an autopsy? Can you stay there and look at a body and see what they're doing up there? Can you deal with the accident scene where there is missing body parts or something like that, right? And a missing person child is missing. Are you going to be emotionally attached to that? Are you not able to go home and sleep rest of your life? You know what I mean? Are you going to have a PTSD after your first trip? So having an understanding what your strength or weakness is very good. So that way you will be able to do that job or not, right? And then some of the other ones are the vision standards, which is you can check online. I think 2020 something like the hearing standards. So they check your hearing as well, just to make sure that you have then color blindness. Those type of things. You have to be able to recognize different type of colors, and physical abilities, also able to carry a firearm and use it when it is necessary. So that's a big deal. You went for all this training, now you are given a firearms, you have a gun on your belt. That's not only just one gun, you're also going to have a shotgun, you're going to also have the machine gun, like a carbine, you're going to have a taser gun. So you have 3-4 guns at your disposal. You're going to have that in your car. You're going to go out to your shift, you're going to carry that with you. But the main thing is, when the situation comes, are you able to use that? If you have to shoot somebody, are you going to back out and say, no, I can't do that. I'm a religious person, I can't kill. Or so you're not there to kill, but you're going to stop a threat. So are you the type of person when you get challenged in a situation, are you able to take that step to stop that threat and protect yourself, your colleagues, and the community? So that is a self-assessment, right? Now, the training, 6 months training in Regina, which I covered, how intense that can be. So physical fitness, mental fitness, your family support when you're going through that. And the another big one is willing to relocate anywhere in Canada. So you got selected from Richmond, BC. That does not mean that you will come back to Richmond, BC. You could end up in Nova Scotia, in Newfoundland, or in Nunavut, or anywhere else in Canada. So it's one of the biggest thing with RCMP and the city police. So if you get hired with OPP, you're going to stay in that region. You're not going anywhere, right? So almost guaranteed that's where you are. But with RCMP, you have no guarantee you will end up anywhere in Canada, right? So that is one little risk involved. So if you are established roots in the community, you have a wife working there, you have a house, you have kids going to school, there's no guarantee you will come back there. You will end up somewhere else in Canada, right? And the other thing is willing to work a shift, night shift. That is also depending on what detachment you work in. Some areas it is going to be. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, it's showing some internet issues here. Okay, so some detachments you end up, there won't be the shift. Like I said, you will be working maybe 5-6 days, then you will be have 3 days off. You will be on call on your days off, depending on the size of the detachment, how the shift schedule is. So you will be working 2 days, then trying to sleep on the daytime. So the shift work can be difficult for some people. And also, that's pretty much, I covered some of the recruiting standards. So the step-by-step process. In Ontario, there's slight difference in the recruiting process. If you look at the RCMP recruiting website, they tell you before you apply, you have to do certain tests like hearing test and eye test and things like that. You have to do that test before you apply. And once you apply, they will screen your application. Then they will call you back to maybe clarify some of the things. If you look at the RCMP website, there is going to be information session in different provinces, different cities. That would be a good opportunity for you to attend and ask your specific questions, specific situation you're dealing with. You can ask them, this is my situation, am I still okay to apply, those type of things. Information session, written exam, I told you the website I personally use, which I think is very useful website. And written exam is done, then you're going to be the one called PAIR or physical ability test. I've been told lately that some of those tests is now done at the training center, no more before the recruiting. So that kept changing depending on what's going on with this pandemic and things like that. After that is done, you will get a package with hundreds of questions to answer about your personal suitability, about the things I discussed, your background, your, any type of criminal involvement, drinking and driving, plagiarism, those type of things. So you need to send in that questionnaire. They're going to review that questionnaire. They're going to call you back to clarify some other things. Once they clarify all that, then they will call you for an interview. I was told lately some of the interviews done over the phone, but when I went through it was face-to-face interview. Interview is done. If you pass in the interview stage, they will be covering, like I said, the core values of the RCMP. That will be basis of the questions. Once the interview is done, then it's going to the biggest part is called the polygraph test or lie detector test. So they'll be attaching that little instrument on your body, on your hand, and they'll be asking questions. So those questions will be usually the selective questions from that questionnaire which you completed, 100 or 150 questions. They will be selecting some specific question and they'll be asking you those questions at the polygraph, try to see if you're telling the truth. So in my opinion, I know there's a couple of people I spoke to who was going through the process, RCMP process, but they happen to have some discrepancy between what is written on the application and what exactly disclosed during the polygraph, and they got rejected. So the best policy is to always be honest about what your background is because they're going to find out at the end. So if you tell them what your background is from the end, and if you are not qualified candidate, that's it. But if you lie about it, then they catch you. That is going to be end of it. Sometimes, I tell you an example. Um, when I completed my application, there was a specific questions about the drug use. So when I say drug, when I came into Canada first, hanging out with my friends, and they were all smoking weed, and they're like, "Do you want to try?" They said, "Oh, I don't know what this is." Okay, sure, I'll try. So I took a puff, I tried, and it's like, oh no. I mean, I never smoked in my life, so I didn't enjoy that at all. That was the end of it. I wrote in my application package, yeah, I tried marijuana once, and then I didn't like it, and I didn't never continue after that. Nothing wrong with that, right? Everybody experienced this in the past. But when I went for the polygraph, my question was, I tried marijuana a couple of times. So there's a discrepancy in the answers. So now, or you tried once, or you tried twice, or you tried more than 2 times. So see what the problem is. So be honest, it was an honest mistake because I didn't remember, because maybe I did it once, maybe I did it twice. I don't remember, right? But the answer I gave, which was different from what was written on my questionnaire, so you got screened on that question again and again and again. So be honest from the beginning on your questionnaire, so you won't have a headache in the, some of these things, which they can understand as a human being, you did it, which is okay. Some of them maybe not. So that's it, right? Polygraph is done, you pass. The next step is going to be the background investigation. This is one important part of your, very important part. When I say it's important, because they will talk with your neighbors, they will talk with your supervisors, your colleagues, your family members. They will go around, check everything about you. So I worked 10 years in Canada before I became a police officer, and I changed 12 jobs. So think about that, the complication. They have to talk with my 12 supervisors. They have to talk with all the addresses I stayed, all the neighbors they went and talked to. If you went to school, they talk with your teacher. So it is extremely important for you to know the people who you hang out with on a daily basis. So you hanging out with a bunch of guys who smoke weed and do drugs once in a while, drinking and driving, involved in some kind of other criminal activities. It is extremely important for you to know who those people are and to stay away from them if you're planning to pursue this career, because you don't want to get caught with one of those people during a police investigation or police check. They're going to put everybody together in one file. This guy was with this guy who has a background in this way, so you connected to some kind of criminality. So you want to keep your record very, very clean and staying away from people who's involved in the criminal lifestyle. Also be important to pick and choose the people who you will be giving reference to. I know you won't be able to know what everybody's background, everything is, but you should have an idea what type of person this is, if it is a right person to give as a reference, because they'll be asking a bunch of your friends' reference as well. They want to know what type of person you are, how much drinks you drink, how do you behave in public when you go out in a club or in an event. They want to know all that. So be selective on the people you give as a reference, because they're going to check. Once your background check is done, once you finish all that, then you will be the next part is the medical examination. That is when they check your blood, your urine, the psychological assessment, complete health, weight, everything else. You pass that. A part of the background investigation also involve your credit check. They will check how much money you owe, you have loans, you borrowed from people, those type of things. So keeping your credit history clean, and if you have some debts, clearing that off, because as a police officer, you get exposed to the drugs, to the money, and so many other things. So they want to make sure you're not going to be, greedy or anything like that when you see money and things like that. So having a good credit history and having all this debts and everything cleared up is also a good preparation towards becoming a police officer. And once all this is done, you'll get a date to go to training center. You finish that 6 months training, graduation. When the graduation is come, so as to the training part, you have a quarterly, then you have a mid, then you have the final. So quarterly, when you have the written test you have to pass, you have the firearms you have to pass, and you have the driving, all those things you have to pass every step of the way. So if you fail once, they will give you a second chance. And if you fail second chance, usually they will put you back 3 months behind in a, call it back troop. They'll put you back in a different troop. Then you, instead of 6 months training, that became 9 months training, and they will still give you an opportunity to make it. Some cases, if you are failing in a multiple situation, you are not passing a written exam, you're also physically not fit, if you're also failing the your firearms or something, they will sometimes they send you back. They said, you're not ready yet, maybe give it another year or 2 years, maybe get physically fit, or fix up some of the things you need to fix up and come back later. So that is also can happen. You could also get injured and sent home. So you finish your exams, all this first level, second level, then you have the final. Again, the shooting you have to do, you have to pass your written exam, and the driving. So if you pass all that, then you graduate. So in fact, maybe until the day before the graduation, you can't be sure whether you're going to graduate or not, because there's lots of unknown things there. Once you graduate, then you will be sent to a different detachment. So halfway during the training, they will ask you to select some provinces you wanted to go. So you give some priority list. I give BC as first choice. Then you give 5 provinces. Once you give 5 provinces, they in a little bit further down the training, they will tell you go into this province. Then they will tell you to select 10 detachments. So you had to go priority level, all the detachments you wanted to go. From that detachment, they select you the detachment they're going to send you. Then you go to your detachment. Then you have 6 months on-job training. So when you get to that detachment, you will be paired with a trainer. That trainer will train you with every step of the way, how to deal with the calls, how to write the report, how to investigate, how to take the statement, all those type of things. And there will be assessment done during that time period. And if you are not doing well, then they will extend this is called, we call it an RFT, the recruit field training. That recruit field training, they will extend that period to 1 year or 9 months or 1 year, depending on how poor you're doing, some of the areas you have to improve. If you are extremely well and you getting everything, you are doing very well, maybe after 3 months training, they will say, you're good, you can be your own, you don't need any more training. So when I was going through, my RFT was done in 3 months. I was on the job in 3 months. So there's some other recruits spend 9 months up to 1 year on the RFT because some areas they're lacking. Everybody has different skills and strengths. So that could happen. Then you are on probation for 2 years with the RCMP. So within that 2 years, there's some, they could let you go if you are breaching the policies and things like that. So that is to do with, generally to do with the recruiting, my experience as a police officer, and my background. So now I think we are at 1.5 hours now. So how about another 10, 15 minutes for you guys to ask any specific questions you have?
Thank you, Jaison, Officer Jaison. Very intense, a lot of information you shared in a short period. Go ahead, first question, yes.
Yes, I have a question about the auxiliary volunteer opportunities to this. Like you said, I have a similar background. Right now, I'm on the correctional officer training in Manitoba. At the same time, I wish to have an auxiliary process to continue in the auxiliary process. So could you explain about the auxiliary?
Yeah, so the city you're living in, is that RCMP is the main police agency?
Yeah,
okay.
I live in the park, Manitoba.
Okay, so the RCMP, the auxiliary process, I know that recently there's been some changes to the program. So I went through this 14, 15 years ago. The auxiliary program is basically you will have a police uniform, and instead of police, it will say auxiliary constable. but RCMP, same RCMP uniform, the shoulder patch, just change it to auxiliary constable. And you will get some part of the police training, a little bit of, you will have a peace officer status, and they will also give you a peace officer badge. And you will have a belt with pepper spray, baton, handcuff, all those type of things. Except gun, you will have everything else. You will do lots of volunteer work in the community. You will be doing the special events, Canada Day or Remembrance Day. You have a Vaisakhi parade. You have different type of events happening in the city. You will be in the traffic control. You will be assisting with the police officers attending the scene. You will be doing the crime prevention patrols. You will be doing crime prevention education. You will be attending the homes, telling them how to secure the home, or specifically looking for problems in the community. Your job is not to investigate. Your job is to observe and report only. You're not police officers, you're peace officers, which means you have an authority to arrest somebody if you see somebody committing a crime, but you need to always see you don't have a gun and you don't have, your ability is kind of limited. So usually they will pair you with a police officer when you are attending a big events and things like that. You will be working with a police officer just like 6 feet away. So you will be always supervised for your safety as well. This is a great opportunity for you to learn how the policing work, what type of calls they attend, how they investigate, and get to know some officers. The current status of the recruiting, I think it is on pending. I don't believe the RCMP is recruiting auxiliary constables at this point. That is to do with the pandemic, as well as there was an incident, I think 2 or 3 years ago in Alberta, where an auxiliary constable got shot and killed when they were attending for a call at a casino. So after that, RCMP has changed the auxiliary program slightly. So at this point, I don't know if there's a program training is happening. I don't believe there is one happening, but you could check with your local detachment or the RCMP website to see if they have that program available to you. But there is also other volunteer opportunities within the organization, the community volunteers, speed watch, many different crime prevention, many other the volunteer opportunities. Victim services is the another one. So you could also utilize that if there's an auxiliary program. It's not available for the time being.
How is the recruitment process of auxiliary? It's same with.
The recruiting process is much easier. The background investigation is not done. The security clearance level is not same as the police officer. So when it comes to the security clearance level, there is several steps to it called, I believe the first one is called reliability checking, then confidentiality level, then it's a secret level, then the top secret level. So when you get to a police officer, you are a secret and top secret clearance. When you are at reliability level, they basically checking your background, any police files, any criminality, your type of job you involve, conflict of interest, those type of things. So depending on the access to the information you will be given, the clearance level security background check will increase. So auxiliary constable training program is, the selection process much simpler. That's because they don't do that lengthy the background check, but you still have a minimum requirement as to, they will still look at your driving history and criminal history, educational background, and those type of things. So it's quite easy because it's a volunteer work, but you have some commitment. In BC, it used to be 200 hours per year or something like that, 200, 250, something like that. That commitment period you had to complete before you go to become an RCMP officer. So you complete that 2 years of your 250 each, and you can go. I was mentioning it earlier. When I was, before I became an officer, I was working 4 days, one job, 2 days, another job. One day I was an auxiliary constable. So minimum 240 hours required, but I did 500 hours for 2 years, total of 1,000 hours. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Jaison. Thank you. It's really helpful.
No problem. if you have any questions, just ask me. Don't be shy, because I know you have questions, and this is the right time to ask anything you wanted to ask.
I would like to ask, how long is the waiting period for appointment? Because my grandson has finished all the trainings, all the paperwork, and they said that he will just wait for the call.
So, what do you mean by the training?
He was from the Canadian Armed Forces.
Oh, I
and
see.
He
Okay.
tries to transfer to policing,
Right.
and then they reviewed his papers. And
Okay.
then I think he went through all this training and other everything. And
Okay.
then they said that he will just wait. So how long is the waiting period?
That will be a question very difficult for me to answer. It is going to be up to the recruiting, but I can tell you that the training center in Regina was shut down at least for 6 months or more, because I know several people, friends I know, they were sent back home and was completely shut down. So they're slowly catching up to some of the people who sent home. They're slowly calling them back, and some people hasn't called back yet. So there is a backlog in training in Regina. And also as to the restriction, how many people can be trained at the time. So when I was going through the training, we had one troop, which is 32 people graduating, one on Sunday and one on Wednesday. So you're talking about 8 group, approximately 250 people graduating per month. And now it looks like a 2 or 3 group graduating per month. So the limitation, how many people they can train at the time. So there's a backlog they're trying to clear for the people who they send back. Then they will be adding on the more of the training. Also, I don't know if they completed his background investigation. So if he was in armed forces, he was deployed outside Canada and things like that, there may be an extensive background check has to be completed from the other, the countries wherever he served. So there could be a delay as to that fact too. The best thing for you to do is to contact the local recruiting officer who he's dealing with and ask them for what is the exact delay. Is it background investigation, or is that a delay to do with the training itself in the Regina Training Center?
So the training from the Canadian Armed Forces would be different with the OPP?
Oh, it's the police training is completely different from the military training, because as a police officer, you're enforcing the Canadian, the criminal code and the motor vehicle act from your province. As an army officer, you're not enforcing any the criminal code, the offenses. So it is a different training. Use of force is another thing. The rules of engagement for the army is different from when you're dealing with enemy forces or the people from different countries. Dealing with them is different from when you're dealing with your own people from your own country. So there's different charter of rights kick in and different set of rules and regulations and training methods. So, I mean, it's going to be definitely helping because of, like I said, this is kind of the army type of rank structure and the training. So there's going to be lots of things he will be able to quickly pick up when it comes to firearms training, those type of things. But still, there is going to be lots of learning involved.
Yeah, because that's what we're telling him is just to wait for their call, and that's why I was so interested. So I will have some information.
So just wanted to ask you, is he applied with the RCMP or with OPP?
With OPP, Ontario.
Oh, I see. Okay, so in that case, whatever I talked about, Regina Training Center is not applicable. So it is, I'm guessing it's probably to do with how many people that they can train and the restrictions in the province as to training. Also maybe to do with the background investigation. So it will be better to contact the OPP recruiting section to get the clarification on that.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Hi, Jason. I have a question regarding the lateral entry program for experienced officers. I graduated from the Atlantic Police Academy. The time at which I graduated, I was not a citizen, so I was not eligible to apply for the RCMP through the lateral entry. So I'm just wondering, still RCMP is hiring lateral entry program, like.
So when they said the lateral program, so you're saying you did the police, the training from my school or university, whatever?
It's a training academy for the
academy.
Yeah.
Okay, so when they say the lateral entry, they're talking about the people with an experienced police officer. So they're not talking about somebody who did a course in policing or have some or knowledge of the criminal law, or they learn a little bit about arresting somebody. That's not exactly what they're talking about. Talking about, for an example, I work with the RCMP, I want to go work with Vancouver Police or with the Surrey Police Department or Delta Police. That is the applicants they're talking about, going within the police forces. So when you're transferring within the police agencies, then you're going to have very less criteria for you, maybe an interview or some little reference check and you're in. There is no other process involved. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about somebody did a course, because you have no experience as a police officer investigating or testifying or interviewing or any of the other areas. So I think you're probably mistaken as to what exactly they're referring to as lateral applicants.
No, actually, I worked with the Charlottetown Police Service. I went to the academy in the Atlantic Canada. It's the academy for the region of the Atlantic Canada for Nova Scotia, PEI, and New Brunswick.
Okay.
So it's same like our.
So what I wanted to clarify is, you got selected as a recruiter as a police officer itself?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same training for the police officers, and I work with the Charlottetown Police in PEI.
Okay, he said, I'm asking is, have you been recruited by a police agency?
Yes.
Or, okay, as a police officer?
Yes, a police officer, but it's only for a summer time. It's just a short time.
Summer student, sir?
Yeah, it's a summer regular uniform. I mean, not a student, but the regular police officer.
Uniform?
Yes.
It's a summer student program?
Not a summer student. It's a summer job, only
for
the summer
job.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have given a police officer uniform, badge, gun, everything.
Yeah, and carry the firearm and everything. Yeah.
Okay, so my bad. So I'm actually not unaware of that program, because it is. I mean, different police. There's I think there's 150 some police agencies across Canada in different cities, and different. The police agencies department has different policies and training and recruiting process, but unfortunately I have no knowledge of exactly that process work with them. I can only, unfortunately I can only talk about the RCMP, because I'm not aware of this program you're referring to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because the RCMP, we got a letter from RCMP that we are eligible to apply for the lateral entry.
Oh, okay. So now I have a little bit more clarification.
Yes.
So based on what you said, it is possible that you probably sworn in as a police officer. So you probably, I thought there is some schools and university, they offer the police officer training program, which is nothing to do with as a police officer itself, just a program, right? So, but if you are sworn police officers in wherever you said you are, then you will be a lateral applicants. Which is a much more faster and quicker process. You don't really go through the complete process like a new recruit. But if you look at the website of the RCMP or the agency you're interested, they will say a specific link for the lateral applicants and the requirements. So that may be the route you wanted to go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We all good?
Any other questions? Okay, it's 8:40. Maybe we can wind up.
Okay.
All right. That was great. Okay.
Actually, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So you said when you first applied in 2008, they told you don't have enough, like you were not integrated into the Canadian atmosphere and everything. So you volunteered. So for people, what do you think is possible for us to do so that we get more integrated into the Canadian everything and get more experience even as a security or work as a security or volunteer? What do you suggest for people who are looking into getting into the police force in the future, like say 4 or 5 years from now?
Right. So I always tell the people, if they are, talking to people, they are 17 or 18 years old and they are thinking about policing as a career, they're starting with some volunteer work. So the reason I say that, because when you start with volunteer work within the police agency, if you can, they obviously going to do some background check. You're going to get to know some police officers. You're going to get good references. If it is like a city police or something, you will get to know the recruiters. You know everybody who worked there. Like in RCMP, it's a big organization. Recruiting is done somewhere else. But you're going to get to know some police officers you work with and volunteer work with. So you will get a great references and you will get a good opportunity to understand how the police, the job works. So start with volunteer work. Second, focus on your fitness level. And you do like I said, online, just take a look at it and do a practice exam and see what your weaknesses are. So, if you're weak in writing or, those type of things, maybe use that opportunity next few years to improve your writing skill, fitness level, volunteer work, and overall looking at, say, if you have issues with finance or something, maybe trying to, clear that up, those type of things. If you have a traffic ticket or something, maybe keeping your driving history clean for the next couple of years. So, and again, get involved with the community, be active out there, and the showing that you are really committed to serving the community.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So, any other questions?
Oh, Jaison, I have one more question.
Yeah.
About the RCMP interview, does RCMP have like a panel interview or like a essential competence interview, just like the Ontario Police do here?
So when I went through my interview process 12, 13 years ago, it was a panel interview at that point. But recently, a friend of mine, he said he had a phone interview. So I don't know if that is to do with the COVID situation. They probably don't want a face-to-face interview. But I was told recently, I'm talking about a couple of years ago, he said it was only phone interview, no face-to-face interview. So, and it is also changing by day. So it will be better to speak with the recruiter in your area to get exactly how the process is happening at this point.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So 8:45 Saturday evening. So that was such an informative session. Thank you so much indeed, Officer Jaison, for joining us today and providing such a excellent information. So on behalf of Ontario Heroes, I would like to thank you and express our sincere gratitude for joining us today. So we'll reach out to you in case any member have more questions. So we'll email you and we'll be in touch with you.
Yeah, no problem. Once again, I want to say thank you guys for this opportunity to speak with you guys, because I wanted to be a police officer 13 years ago, and I didn't have anybody to speak with and get some advice or guide me through the right track. So I'm here to help you guys. If you need help, if you have further questions, email me or message me, then we'll talk more, and wish you guys all good luck and take care of yourself.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. And a special thank you to Dinesh, who coordinated with this webinar. And he's just exited, but thanks to Dinesh too, and whoever joined today. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.